weeks ago for now. And his book Overdrive is what we're going to talk about today. So let's get on to the interview right after this, shall we? Let's learn all about Overdrive from Michael. Here. Michael is from the Leamington area. If you're familiar with hauling tomatoes at all, you probably know Michael. So he's a retired long-haul LTL produce trucker that turned author of thriller novels. That's what he's doing now. He's retired. He's got 2 novels out. He was born and raised in Leamington, Ontario, where he still resides. And you can learn more about him on his website, dmichaeldayauthor.com. Now, his book Overdrive is the latest book that he's put out, and it's next to the series of chronicling the crimes of the Iceman murderer. So he's got this Iceman murderer that's been running through his books. He's a dangerous trucker, and as she causes mayhem on the interstate highway system, and the small-town cop who's traveling the highways, also by truck, out to stop her. Sounds like an interesting read. I have not read it yet, but I did talk to Michael about his journey as an author, about his journey as a truck driver, and I think he's doing some amazing things. So let's get on to that interview with Mr. Michael Day, who is the author of Overdrive.
Great, Bruce. How about you?
Good. So you are. I was reading your a little bit about you on your website and all that, and we're going to get into your book. You've got I'm not sure if you got 1 or 2 books. I'm looking at some of the books, but tell me about when you started driving. You are retired now, but you were long haul, and you have an interesting start. I was reading about how you were thrown into the Florida game, and somebody who drove for 25 years and started in the 80s. I understand that. That's how we all got kind of started. But tell us how you got started in the trucking industry, and what got you going there. Because I know you started as a mechanic.
Well, I left home when I was 17, and I lived in Leamington, Ontario, affectionately called the tomato capital of Canada.
That's right.
And I moved to Brantford, Ontario, and apprenticed as an auto mechanic. And but at a young age, I was always enamored by huge trucks. I was loving trucks.
Yep.
And so after I got my journeyman's ticket, I moved to the international truck dealership in Brantford, and learned how to fix trucks and drive them.
Right.
And was grandfathered into the new licensing system, the Class A.
That's right.
Yeah. And didn't have to take a test or anything. Just
they were the chauffeur's license back then, remember?
They automatically just gave me an A license, and I was happy about that because there weren't any trucking schools back
Yeah,
then,
I know, I know.
you know.
I think I got my straight truck license at 18, and my tractor trailer license when I was 20. And that was
Yeah.
back in 82. And I remember there might have been maybe one school, possibly two. And the amount that they wanted you to go to school, I said, well, I can make that driving my first 6 months and learn that way. So
Yeah.
that's how I did it. So yeah, there wasn't a lot. So you started in the mechanic world. I'm interested how this, you didn't allude to you on your website, but I'm interested to know how that first trip to Florida, you went to Jacksonville, Florida. First of all, what did your company say? Did you just quit and go to Florida? Like, okay, guys, see ya. Or did they,
Yeah.
yeah, how'd that work?
Yeah. I just, a guy came into my bay driving this beautiful big international cab over,
Yeah.
brand new for a little maintenance work. And as he climbed down from the truck, I greeted him and told him that I'd really like to drive a truck like this someday. And he said to me,
Today's the
good, good. My driver just quit. It's loaded for Jacksonville, Florida. Get in it and go. And I did. No training or anything,
wow.
just a little familiarity with trucks. But I had never driven on an interstate highway. I had never pulled a trailer before, and here I had a reefer
Yeah.
loaded with. I was driving the turnip truck loaded with rutabagas from Ontario, and headed for several drops through the southern states. And I have a picture of myself with this truck. I wish I could show it to you, but it was gorgeous, and I just felt like I was king.
Yeah.
Very unprofessional, but doing my best.
So
And
how
I
did the trip
picked up a.
how did the trip go? So you're driving, like, did you get stopped to the scale? Did you how was the deliveries? How did you back up? Did you know how to back up? Like, all those things when you're going in through truck stops and you're stopping on a regular basis for meals or what have you, all are things that you're learning. And if you've never been in a truck before and all of a sudden never actually driven a truck and now did you have an idea from your mechanics maybe? How do you know what to do?
Well, you know, for some reason, backing up came naturally to me.
Okay.
I, I found it to be easy, and the trip went very well. I uh, I unloaded in several grocery warehouses down through the Carolinas and Georgia and Florida, and loaded a trailer full of reefer full of grapefruit at Vero Beach,
Okay.
and hauled north
Right.
to Toronto.
To our food terminal, which is an exciting place to go at all times.
Yes, yes,
Been there, done that. Been there, done that.
yep,
Oh
yep.
wow. So we're gonna get into your book in a little bit, but were you writing back then? Did you start writing back then? When did
I
you start your writing career?
I started writing after um, I was about 12 years into driving,
Okay.
and uh, my second wife asked me to get off the road for a while. So she convinced me to go to college, and I went to college, and I don't know why I thought I could go to college because I never did well in high school, never made it through grade 10. But I, believe it or not, I won the Dean's Award.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, yeah, I did very well in college, and I took a job at Revenue Canada that time. They recruited me, and but that didn't go well with me because you know, I was working on the front counter, and seeing people every day
Yeah.
that hated my guts for where I worked.
Yeah.
So I left that and got into financial planning, studied more, and got a ticket, and it was in that for 15 years. But all the while, the the road was calling me back,
Okay.
and and I but while I was working as a financial planning, I wrote my first novel, Overload, and
Okay.
it was published in 2003.
Right.
And and I uh, after 15 years in an office, I had enough. I went back on the road, hauling produce again, LTL,
Yep.
and southern states, and actually some into Arizona, New Mexico, and California,
Yep.
and and just you know loved it, just loved it. And
Yep.
I wrote my second novel in truck stops and with a folding chair out on the grassy part of the truck stop, and and in the sleeper, of course,
Yep.
with stolen moments,
Yep.
and and that one is, I'm proud to say, better than the first.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. So now you're retired now. So you drove for you had what a 30 plus career driving overall, even with your missed years, in the office there. So now you're writing full time? Is it you're retired now, but are you writing full time, or do you still get out in the trucking industry at all? Or
No, I write every day.
okay,
Uh, I've got two more novels actually written and ready to go,
okay,
besides the Overload one,
right,
or Overdrive, and uh, and I'll be publishing them. I promised my readers I'll publish one per year for as long as I can write,
okay,
and I'm writing well now, so I have no problem doing that. I also write for a software company in Mississauga that has created software for streamlining truck repair shops.
okay.
So, so I'm into that too,
Oh, good for
and I I do two projects a week for them, and I just I can wrap it up in one day. So
you.
so I'm quite happy. Writing is my true passion
Yeah.
now
Oh,
that I can't drive anymore.
I've interviewed a lot of people. I've interviewed a lot of people on the show that are writers. I'm an artist as well, so I'm not. I like to write. I've got 6 books out, but mine aren't always about the trucking industry. A couple are, and a couple are in the arts, and some are just inspirational. But yeah, it's amazing how many drivers have a side passion that a lot of companies don't think about. We just think about the driving. We just think, oh, that person's a trucker or whatever. We don't see all of them. And very early on, I used to keep my art separate from my trucking. Now it's kind of integrated into each other, just the way things are. I'm interested in your thoughts on the trucking industry in general. When did you stop driving professionally? When was the last year that you stopped driving professionally?
Uh, 2013, was it?
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, you were a little past me.
2013.
I stopped driving professionally 2006, and probably haven't turned a wheel in at least the last probably I'm going to say 8 to 10 years. I haven't even been in a truck. Before that, it was
Yeah.
sporadic. So okay. So now the industry has changed quite a bit. What are your thoughts in general, based on what you've seen today, based on your experiences? You're like me. We started, in the '80s and stuff like that. And what's your thoughts on the industry? What can we? It's changed a lot. Do you think it's gotten better or worse?
Well, I both. It. I caught your podcast yesterday about uh, being professional,
Yeah.
and becoming professional, and a lot of drivers don't seem to get that these days.
Oh,
They just, it's a job, and it's not it's not a profession at times, and but I love the trucks they're putting out these days.
yeah.
They're really something. They're really, really technology driven.
If only we had had
And
that, Rich, or if only we had that, Michael, in our day, right? Because, some of the trucks that I've driven around the highways, as much as I love them, were not maybe the most comfortable. Let's just say that, or
yeah,
most technology driven, right?
that's a fact. That's a fact. And we're seeing, much more comfort in a cab these days,
Right.
and and power too.
Yeah. Which we have inexperienced drivers with more power. That's almost a problem right in itself.
That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's get into your writing. How did you know? Did you know, like, you were writing in truck stops, you're writing on your journeys, but I mean, I don't know I'm interested to find out your writing process, but how did you remember all of that stuff? Did you record, if you saw something? Because I know my cartoons and my art a lot of times is similar to writing. It's seeing an incident, or not an incident, but seeing something happen, or even a quick conversation, or a remark from somebody, or a title of a sign. Anything can spur on the next chapter or the next cartoon in my case. So a lot of times it's writing that down. If someone says, oh, that's a good one. Musicians do this all the time. They write a title down, or they write a lyric down that they heard. Did you do a lot of that kind of stuff, or did you just start writing and just hope to remember it? How do you remember all of the stuff that, or the interesting parts of your books?
Well, um, my books are not about me.
Right.
For instance, they're stories, they're fiction.
Yeah.
They're driven by my memories. The first one was driven by my memories of what I encountered on the road, and the interactions of some good truckers and some bad.
Yep.
And I wove stories out of them. I um I the second one I I wrote in, as I said, truck stops and motels and the sleeper,
Yep.
and but that was recording daily,
Right.
not on a tape, but handwritten,
Yeah.
and that's how I got my start.
Okay. Okay. And then how long does it take you to write a book? What's your process? I know mine changed over the years. In my first couple books, I wrote chronologically, if you will. Chapter 1 and chapter 2, chapter 3. My last book, I had trouble doing that because and it's the nature of my book. It's more of a self-help book. It's not a novel, but I wrote, what I did is I wrote every day, but I wrote what I felt that day, and then later on pieced them together or moved them around so they fit, in a particular chapter. What's your process for writing? Because I always find that interesting when I'm talking to people who are creative.
Yeah, well, I brainstorm an idea,
Yep.
and I play out the story in my mind, and just write every day the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter, and it goes on like that. That's I weave stories together.
Right. Right. And how long does it take you to write a chapter? Like, so if you're writing a book, would it take you a year to write a book? How long? I know for me, it took, I think, probably about 3 months if I was to put all the time together in, sync. I didn't exactly write every day sometimes, but for me, it was probably about 3 months, I think, to write a book from start to finish. What is your thoughts, or how long does it take you to do what you do? I don't know if a chapter takes a week, a day, a month.
I'm a slower writer than you. I take generally almost a year to plot and record,
Right.
and that's and I'm happy with that. I like the progress, and I like the novels. I read them myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, so we're going to talk. I know Overdrive is your latest book, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. But I think we should start at Overload. So Overload. Now, do these books? Is it a central character that's going through all? Or are they totally different stories?
No, they're a series, actually, and Overload is the beginning.
Okay.
Of the series, and Overdrive is the next in the series.
I see.
With similar characters, the same characters in some cases.
Okay.
I have I start with a brother and sister redneck team, and from Zephyr Hills, Florida, and they get into trucking by stealing a truck and a trailer, and a story weaves on from there. They get into a scrape and have to kill a driver they're stealing from, and on it goes.
Okay. Don't give away anything you shouldn't be. I know I downloaded Overload the other day, and I read, I think, just like the first couple pages. I didn't have time to read, but I was intrigued, and I don't usually read those type of books. So kudos to you, because it really did catch my interest right off the bat. And I'm waiting to see how the mayor handles this police officer that's giving him trouble. I'll have to read. I'm not going to say any more than that, but it was good right at the back. I have to see how that happened, because I could see the frustration. I could feel the frustration in that mayor right off the bat with that. And then I skimmed through a little bit, and I know I got into owner operator and stuff, but I didn't read it. So I have to go back and read it. So I just wasn't sure. I actually, when I downloaded, I thought that was Overdrive. I realized afterwards that it was Overload that I downloaded through your website. Part of it. So, okay. So now one thing I noticed, and I may have this wrong, but because I haven't read it, the main character is a woman driver. Is that correct in Overdrive? It's a woman that's the main character.
She's one of the main drivers. Okay.
So I was getting confused because you had I guess you called her Iceman Murderer. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So I was confused because it was a woman, but Iceman, I think I was tired. It's not you, it's me. So now tell us a little bit about this character as much as you can without revealing, stories or anything like that. Just how did you know to make that? Why did you make that person the main character?
Well, she's actually a secondary character. The police officer from Ohio is the main character.
Okay.
He's running the story, but the woman is the sister of the guy and her that are stealing trucks.
I see. Okay.
And they get into a scrape and have to kill a driver because they goofed up, and then they have to dispose of the body and so on, and it's all the points of interest are places I've been to,
okay,
and appear as normal. They run up I-75 and carry on.
Okay. Did you it's funny because I've got another, I don't know if you've listened to any of the, I've got some podcast episodes. If you look under trucking books, you'll see a bunch of podcast episodes I've done with other authors. One of them was a guy named Rob, who is an ex-football player who's now a trucker, and he's a novelist too, and he's got a few novels out. And I was asking him, I go, how many of your shippers and receivers are killed off in these novels? He says quite a few. He said I had to change some names and genders to make sure that I wasn't. So, did you do the same with yours? Is there a few people in there that, man, I remember that place? I think I'm going to make him part of this thing. Is
No,
anything like that, or no? Just the places.
no, mine are made up, but the places are real.
Okay, the places are real. That's good.
Yeah.
And what type of book would you consider? What's your genre that you consider the book is? Is it horror or is it comedy or what type of book is it?
Mine are crime thrillers
Crime thrillers
with a with oh, sorry, Bruce.
No, it's okay. It's okay. My memory goes all the time. So that's why I'd be impatient. I go, I hope he remembers before I do. Not a problem, my friend. Not a problem.
Yeah, they're crime thrillers with a modest amount of action.
Okay. Good. Well, it's good to see. I see. Now, do you see I find truck drivers always have lots of interesting stories. People say, hey, you know what? You want to hear a good story and, just ask a truck driver. And of course we do the same because we can go on forever, stories of the road. But this isn't really stories of the road. Did you consciously want to stay away from, because a lot of truck drivers, that's what they write, the kind of the road stories that we hear. And, what did you decide? Have you always been into crime thrillers, or how did you decide that was the genre for you?
Yeah, I've always been into crime thrillers. I was my writing was influenced by authors like Elmore Leonard,
okay,
and Stuart Woods,
right,
Robert B. Parker,
okay,
James Patterson,
yep,
and Janet Ivanovich.
I know these names because my wife has read most of those authors. I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm still. I need so much help, Michael, that I only read self-help books because I'm still trying to prove myself.
That's a joke on you, Bruce.
I know, but I know a lot. I know a lot of these names because my wife is an avid reader, and a lot of those I've heard before. So she likes that kind of stuff. So that's great. That's amazing. What are you working on next? So Overdrive is about to come out. Well, it just got released. The beginning of this year, right? Did I get that right? January?
Yeah, the beginning of the year. But I've just started marketing it just now.
Okay.
I've had some illness I had to deal with, so
sure.
But I was still writing, and so I have another one with the cop L.T. Stafford.
Okay.
It's called Angel's Last Dance.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't involve a lot of trucking.
Right.
Very much, but it's another crime thriller, and I have a new series I've started with trucking and motorcycling, because I was a Harley rider for 27 years.
Oh, okay, very cool.
Yeah,
very cool. So now your titles: Overload, Overdrive. Someone thinking of trucking is going to go, oh, yeah, he's talking about the time he was overloaded for 2 hours.
No.
So it's nothing to do with what made you choose those titles? Is it just to do with driving?
Well,
how'd you get those titles?
No, the woman driver is described as being on overload.
Okay.
She's a bit out there.
Okay.
And Overdrive is just a very uninventive title.
Yeah.
So, I really didn't put a lot of thought into the titles of these books, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, you're going to have overthought. Like, if you're going to keep with the over, you got a series going, that might get a little challenging. But no, that's fine. I just curious they're good trucking titles. I mean, Overload, Overdrive. I would think that would be what a trucking author would come up with. I know that's Overboard. You could write one on the boats. I think that was a movie. Oh, that's good. So where can we find your books? I know I noticed online you sent me a link to your website there. Where else can we get the books? Where are they available?
Well, they're available on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, uh, Barnes and Noble in the U.S. and Chapters Indigo in Canada,
Okay. And I
and
think
of course the
yeah,
website.
yeah, and I know I think for Indigo, because I've had a few authors that have said this, that even if it's not displayed on their shelves, if you ask, they can order the title in for you if you're within their program, I believe. Is that correct?
They definitely will do that for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I've heard people say that before, so that's important because somebody might go looking for it, don't see it, and go, "Well, it's not in this store,"
Yeah.
or whatever, you know. So I know
Yeah.
the Indigo's changing by the minute. Every time I go in there, it's totally different than last time I was there.
Yeah.
So where do we follow you? Do you have social media? Do you have where do we kind of watch? I know you had a blog. You had one or two up there. I don't know if that's a regular thing when you blog, but
It will be.
when should people? How do people follow you or support you as far as sharing your book? And
Well, they can reach out to me from my contact page on my website anytime. And it's dmichaeldayauthor.com.
okay,
And I'm happy to answer questions or
yep.
talk about the books,
Okay.
whatever.
Do you have a book tour, book signings, or anything? I know my last book, it was during the pandemic, so I had to do this virtual day long live on Facebook thing I did. Do you travel around? You're in Ontario by the sounds of it, so do you get around to bookstores or anything like that?
I am, yeah. And Overload was sold in a few truck stops
Okay.
in Ontario. Flying J and Husky, and and the other one in London. What was that?
Um, there's a Petro Pass, Husky, Flying J, London. There's another one. I don't know what it's called. I won't stop at that one.
By Dorchester, it was. I can't remember the name of it.
Well, there was Fifth Wheel's been gone for a long time. So
Fifth Wheel, yeah, they still selling my books too.
Well, they're gone, so you won't find them. You won't find them at the Fifth Wheel. The Fifth Wheel's been. I think the truck wash is the only thing left of the Fifth Wheel now. There's no Fifth Wheels anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the one in London that was a Fifth Wheel. I think changed over to Petro Pass. I think that's the Petro Pass now.
Oh, okay.
Story, if my mind is correct. I usually stop at the Husky or the Flying J. I haven't stopped at the other one too much because I don't have a Petro Pass card. So anyway, that's great. Now, do you have audio versions of these books? Are you recording audio versions?
Not yet.
No,
not yet, Bruce. No, sorry. I hope to soon.
That's how a lot of drivers are listening to books nowadays. So they're all trying to learn English at the same time. So good
yeah. No, I'm still a starving artist above all.
You know that never ends, right? You know, artists are more later than they are now. So we'll leave that alone, though. We don't want to turn this into a morbid chat. But
yeah,
I know.
I enjoy what I'm doing.
That is the key right there, to enjoy what you're doing, and if you can make a few sales off it and support yourself that way, and it's interesting. Thank you very much for being on the show today, Michael. It's been great. I'm sorry our video couldn't get working, but we'll get you to send some pictures over afterwards. But thanks for being on the show. This has been a great chat, and I wish you well with the books.
Thanks very much, Bruce. And I just want to say one more thing.
Sure.
Anybody that listens to the Lead Pedal podcast is able to download my first novel, Overload, for free.
Oh, thank you.
From my website.
Very cool. Very cool. I'll put that. Should I put that as a link in the show notes so people can link right through and get it?
Sure, do that. Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do that so they can get that, because that's a great way. I know that's how I read now. I don't read a lot. I like to read, but I read on tablets now because I've run out of space for books. And when my wife and I travel, we go, it's a lot easier to carry one iPad than 20 books that our luggage is always at the limit as it is. So we have to go with iPads, but that's great that people can do that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Bruce.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're
and,
welcome.
And that download of Overload is absolutely free.
Okay, thank you very much. Read. Yeah, that's great.
The whole book. The whole book.
The whole book. I'm on page 2, so I have to get in there some more. But that's great. I enjoyed the first 2 pages, and I will say, I'm not a novel reader by I never read novels, so to be interested, I'm intrigued to see what happens for the rest of it. So we'll have to check it out for sure. Thanks for being on the show, Michael. Appreciate it. I'll put all of your info in the show notes as well, so people can click through and contact you. And good luck with the books. I look forward to seeing the next one when it comes out. We'll have to have you back.
Thanks for everything, Bruce. I will welcome coming back.
Great. Thank you. Check out his work. Go to dmichaeldayauthor.com. You can get the books there. He's even got some, if you want to download his other one, is there. You can learn all about him. You can see photographs, all of that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. And nice to see someone, taking their experiences and turning it into something that they can do long into their retirement. So congratulations, Michael. It was a pleasure talking with him. He's starting to work on his next book, so we'll have him out again sometime. But go check out his books. Support these truck drivers. And you know what? They support us. So, all right, hey, let's talk to our friends over at Driver Chuck.